That's not what Al McDonald's saying publicly, or Mr. Gravel talking about, divestment being an option. Isn't that what they're talking about?
Well, what we're hearing, and again, we have tentacles everywhere, what we're hearing is that there's nobody leading a plan to develop a business plan to keep Ontario whole, Ontario Northland whole and in government hands. There's none of that. All the talk is about divestment.
What about this committee that's been formed?
Well, again, from what we're saying, we've tried to reach out to that committee, and we haven't got any reply back from the government, the minister or the premier on that. We said we'd like to play some kind of a role in that. We've been told we haven't received a reply at all. So what's going on in that committee, we're not quite sure. But again, we're saying we have to have all the stakeholders involved, and workers are large stakeholders who know how the operation needs to be done. And we're saying, we've always said the status quo, it won't work. So we want to be part of those discussions with all stakeholders to come up with a viable option to divestment.
Do you think they can hear you down in Queen's Park? I mean, you're preaching to the choir in this region. Everybody knows what's at stake. Yeah. But Kathleen Wynn has other big fish to fry, including, the 5 by-elections, the issues with the gas plants. Isn't this off her radar right now?
Well, from what we've been hearing through the media, through you people, is that this is an important issue to the minister as well as to the premier. She was in Timmins about a month and a half ago, saying that basically what we've been saying all along, what they've been saying all along, that they're looking for a viable option. So if she's a person of her word, then she should be backing that up. Our frustration is normally we would have this conversation with her in a room. We would meet with her or the minister. We did it under Mr. McGuinty. We did it before under Premier Harris and Mr. Eves. We meet with the Minister of Northern Development and Mine and have these conversations. We haven't been able to reach out. They haven't reached back to us to have that conversation. And what we're saying is through you people, is that we wish to have that conversation. We want to be part of the solution. And we're not putting any preconditions on this, right? We'll talk about all aspects of Ontario North, including collective agreements, governance structure, and all other options, all other items.
What does no preconditions? What does that mean exactly, Brian?
Well, we were saying we're open to have a frank discussion. We know that Ontario Northland isn't working properly as the way it's now structured and the way it's now working. We're saying we're saying we'll talk about all aspects of the operation. So if somebody's going around, some bureaucrats going around saying that the unions won't talk about collective agreements, that's not true. We will talk about collective agreements, but we're also saying that isn't the only issue about Ontario Northland. There's a whole bunch of other issues that need to be corrected before we can right the ship.
A sense of frustration, obviously going public like this, you're feeling a sense of frustration about not being included in the process.
Yeah, and really we're just trying to reiterate what our members are saying and their families and the communities are saying. And we live in these communities from James Bay all the way down. People are frustrated. They're wondering what is going on. They're hearing all these great words that the government's interested in a viable option, but nobody's building a plan on a viable option. So that's what we're saying, is somebody's got to take the lead. That's why we think the mayor of North Bay might be the person to take the lead. In our conversations with him, he's been adamant in the support of the ONTC. This is news to him. We've suggested that he lead this, but we think that's what needs to be done here. We need somebody to grab the bull by the horns and get all the people together, all stakeholders, to come up with a viable option.
Table, though, Brian, it seems like with all the talk, first not just from the MPP here, but others have said it looks like it's off.
All we're hearing is a lot of rhetoric. They haven't said what we've heard is the process is still continuing. Actually, we've heard that on Ontario there's some of the proponents who want to buy it have been sniffing around it again, and they may even have been on the property. So nobody's hit the pause button here. Nobody's called us up and said, "Oh, by the way, we're paused. Let's get in a room." So we're saying, let's get in a room, all the stakeholders, to deal with all aspects of Ontario Northland. Right? Every aspect has to be looked at to come up with a viable option.
Do you think they're waiting?
You're willing to talk layoffs? You're willing to talk staff cuts?
We're willing to talk about everything. We're not going to preclude, say, this is what it's going to have to be about or not be about. We're here to have an open discussion and talk about everything.
Do you think they could be waiting because, we don't know what's going to happen with the by-elections? There could be a provincial election at any time. Do you think they're waiting this and making this a political ploy to possibly take this seat away from Vic Fideli, knowing how the whole debate about his role with with Ontario Northland? Do you think there's a political gamble here, or what?
Honestly, what the government of the day is planning in terms of politics and elections is not really of a concern to ours. Our concern is the communities that we live in, and the families and the members of all our unions, and the management as well, who we want to come up with a viable option to the ONTC. So the politics of it is irrelevant to us. What we're here is about trying to fix the ONTC.
What is this doing to the morale of your folks? And are you seeing folks picking up stakes and leaving because they don't know?
That's part of the problem that we're having, and maybe that's part of the plan, is that we've had a lot of younger people leave, and some of the senior people have retired. So we're struggling at the moment, basically the way the ONTC is set up right now, trying to run the operations. We're struggling in all aspects of the operation, trying to keep the ship afloat. Our members have done an admirable job as management to keep the ship afloat, but it's having some rough times, and we're heading for some rocks unless somebody corrects us. Either we start hiring some people, or we rethink how we're going to run the ONTC.
Well, isn't that the fear, though, is that they're going to run this thing into the ground, that there's not going to be anything worth saving?
Yeah, and probably a lot of people are. A lot of our members are saying that, and I get that in the community when I walk around. That's what they're saying. That's the concern, is that the bureaucrats have come up with a plan that they'll just slowly kill this operation by doing nothing.
So time is of the essence, then?
Yes, and that's what we're saying. Time is of the essence. We truly believe, and all the people we talk to, community leaders and customers, think that an alternative to divestment can be found. We can fix Ontario Northland, but to do that, we have to have a real conversation. The government's got to come in with no preconditions as well. The company can't come in. The customers, the community, we got to get in a room and have a frank discussion, and we're saying we're willing to do that.
Where does the port plan stand now?
Well, again, that was a response to the government's plan at the time that divestment was the only option. Right, so that was our proposal. If you're going to divestment, well, here's an opportunity to do that, and so that's still out there if that's where they're going. Right, what we're hearing is that they're looking for something other than divestment. So that's why we're saying what we are saying today.
And if they don't accept the proposal that you made, what's next? What's going to be the next step?
Well, that's a good question. You'll have to ask the government. I can't answer that. What we're seeing is this uncertainty will continue, frustration levels will continue to grow, and the ONTC will continue to start having real large problems in delivering the services that people count on.